Thank you for tuning in to UTCR.Live. Today we're here with computer science teacher and head of computing at UTC Reading, Robert Bradley. How are you today?
Yeah, good. Enjoying being at home.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at the UTC day to day?
Yeah, so obviously I'm the director of computing, and computing being one of the specialisms, it's one of the largest departments at UTC Reading, and obviously the one with the most complicated number of qualifications that we do and everything else. So we run 6 different qualifications, and most of the teachers teach upon most of the qualifications. So we're a very versatile department. I also obviously have a role as the professional qualifications coordinator across the whole school, mainly because a lot of that falls within the computing department anyway. So as you can imagine, we have to teach on rather a lot of different qualifications if you add in those 20 odd Microsoft qualifications as well.
And what was sort of your inspiration? What led you to go into computer science?
I didn't specifically really choose to go into computer science. So, bit about my history. I dropped out of university at 19 because I got a place in the fire service. And then when I got injured in that, I had to go back out to work and that sort of thing. And so I did a open university degree part-time because obviously I was used to earning money at that point. And there I chose an open degree. So I literally chose different bits that I enjoyed. So I ended up with a sort of maths and computing degree just because those subjects interested me. So yeah, I mean, I've always been very good at computer science, and indeed, you know, when I was in year 13, I sort of helped out someone with their NEA back then, even though I wasn't doing the A level. So yeah, it just was an interest that I took during my degree. And I mean, ultimately, my specialism was maths. So you know, if I had to say I had any specialism, it would be optimizing search resources in vulnerable missing person search using search theory mathematics. You know, it wouldn't be anything to do with computing, but ultimately you use computers so much. If I had to say I've got a specialism in computing, it would probably be web design and web development and that sort of thing. And maybe a bit about online marketing and that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm versatile.
Other than your time in the fire service, have you worked in any industry jobs, or have you just been in education?
So I left the fire service. I travelled around Europe for about 6 months because I didn't know what I was going to do, having just always wanted to be a fireman and that sort of thing. I came back and was looking for a job, and actually started working in casinos because I saw an advert and that sort of thing. Absolutely loved that. Ended up doing 6 or more years in casinos. I mean, I got paid to play games all night. What more do you actually want? So yeah, did that, and then did my degree part time and that sort of thing. So I've worked on my own building websites and that sort of thing. I've never worked in industry doing it. And then I ended up teaching, and within the teaching, so my first teaching was actually uniformed public services. So kids who wanted to join the police, fire and that sort of thing. So my specialism there was disaster management and that sort of thing. And indeed, I was teaching disaster management when the Twin Towers was hit. We literally dragged an old TV, as you used to in those days, dragged the TV in and watched the Twin Towers come down in one of my lessons and stuff. So yeah, I've got a totally varied history of working in various different places and that sort of thing. But a lot of what I've done is teach small business people how to use computing effectively in their businesses and stuff.
Brilliant. And what would you say is different about how the UTC operates compared to the other schools you've worked at in the past?
There's two things. The most important thing really is the industry links and the real world problems that you work on. If you go to any other school, it's just working towards a qualification. There is none of the industry insight that you get at UTC, and that involvement is just essential really to what a UTC is about. Those real world problems are the ones that are going to, when you go to job interviews and that sort of thing, those are the things that people are going to be talking to you about and stuff. I can remember in my first year at UTC Reading, I was sat there and I was doing the Salesforce enrichment at the time. And we had Salesforce accessibility engineers Skyping in from the States to speak to one of our students who'd built an app for a visually impaired Thames Water employee to use their Salesforce system and stuff. And you think, oh my goodness, that student is, when someone talks about what have you done, we'll be talking about amazing experiences that you don't even get when you're an apprentice, let alone as a student, and that is the big difference between a UTC and any other place in the world. I mean, it's the one thing that when you're immersed in it, it's every day. You don't realize just how special it is until you go somewhere else and there's nothing like that. So yeah, it's an amazing place. It really is.
I totally agree with you. The amount of opportunities I've had at UTC is just phenomenal. At my old school, we wouldn't have got anything close to employer engagement other than maybe an interview.
Yeah.
And at UTC, I'm regularly integrated with representatives from Microsoft and AWS and Thales even.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's encouraged as well. If you imagine how other schools view social media and that sort of thing, and how different it is at UTC Reading, where you're sort of pushed to make those contacts and everything, because that's the world we live in. That's going to help you more than potentially, I don't want to say it, but your qualifications are only a very small part of you getting a job.
And speaking of integrating with Microsoft, your name has sort of become synonymous with Microsoft's exams. What would you say your favourite exam or professional qualification is to pass?
I've got so many, actually. I love the whole Microsoft Office qualifications, being able to use those products effectively. So being able to call myself a Microsoft Office Specialist Master is just something else. Unfortunately, it means that everyone comes to you and asks how do they use it, but it's such a powerful suite of tools and no one uses it to its full potential, and being able to know that you can do some of these things is just brilliant. But in terms of the MTAs, the first one and the last one I passed are the two favourites. So HTML and CSS, I walked into the school and that was, I think, one of the very first qualifications that I took when I was there, because I didn't know any better. I thought they're freely available. Of course, I'm going to take all of these and do it. So I just started taking them and I took the HTML and CSS. I don't know. I got a very good score, which I would hope that I did. I don't know whether it's been beaten recently, but it was certainly the top score for a long while. Even though on the leaderboards I never put staff ones, I was up there. I knew that I'd beaten everyone. But yeah, I recently did the MTA in networking, and I'm really pleased about passing that because my networking skills are not great at all. It's the one thing I really have to work on. I'm going to be teaching you lot it next year, so I thought I'd better brush up again on it. So to pass that, I was really pleased.
That is one of the hard ones. It's sort of got the reputation around UTC as the hardest qualification to pass. It only took me something like 5 attempts.
Yeah.
So could you tell us about how you came to be this MTA master at UTC?
When I joined, I thought these things are freely available to everyone. And I just assumed that everyone did them, staff and students alike. If you've got these amazing qualifications, and they are amazing. I mean, again, when we talk about the differences between UTC and other schools, you just don't have these opportunities to do this. And I mean, when I first got there, I can remember, yourself and a few others had tons of these qualifications and nothing was ever done about it. It was just like, yeah, they've passed them. So I was just taking them. I just took as many as I could. Why wouldn't you? And then obviously that got the reputation because actually I was one of a few staff who took advantage of it. Students were, especially the year 10, which was your year 10 group. You were all taking advantage of it. So yeah, and then John sort of saw that and said, well, look, we need to improve it across everyone. Would you want to do it? Yeah, I'll go for it. And I'm very much a target driven person. Give me a target and I will just run with it and do everything that I can to actually achieve it and stuff. It's when it's wishy-washy and stuff that I'm a bit, yeah, whatever. Which is why I'm hating this lockdown, because actually I don't have any real targets and everything, whereas normally I can just throw things out there. But you see it, I send out tons of emails just pushing people to achieve something. There was that great comment in the survey I did about, Robert always wants the students to do their best and reach their potential and whatever. And I love that, because that's exactly what I want. I want all of you lot to be the same as what I did, take them all, do as many as you can. So yeah, that's how I seem to have got the reputation, by just doing something without realizing.
And you've got a member of your family at UTC, don't you?
Yes.
Is working alongside a member of your family any different to a traditional workplace, or is there not much there?
I don't know. I was really worried when before I even joined, because I know I can remember going to school, and one of the kids in my year group, his mum was a teacher there, and he was bullied mercilessly, and I didn't want that. I didn't want to be seen as sort of an embarrassment to Daniel or anything like that. So even before I applied, we had a long discussion about, would he mind me going there and that sort of thing. I can remember getting the list of students, because when you go for an interview, you do a lesson observation, being observed teaching. And I got the list and I emailed back saying, you do realise that one of these kids is my son? And they came back, will that be a problem? No, I'll just teach him and that sort of thing. But actually, I don't see him around the school. It's not like, there's a lot of interaction. I don't teach him traditionally, and now he's not even doing computer science at all for his A levels. So yeah, I had hoped once he'd become year 12 that he might be able to pop to the shop for me occasionally and get some stuff, but that's just not happened. But apart from that, yeah, it's nothing. We don't see him. So
brilliant. And what would you say the funniest thing a student has done in one of your lessons at UTC, or even around the UTC?
I don't know, actually. I was thinking about this, and I love students. We're always having a laugh and that sort of thing. But one of the most memorable moments, and it's not particularly funny, but one of the most memorable moments, when I first joined UTC Reading, one of my first lessons, year 13 lesson and that sort of thing. And one of the students just got up and started walking out in the middle of my lesson and stuff. And I'm like, what are you doing? And anyway, this blew up into a big confrontation. There was effing and blinding and this sort of thing. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what have I joined? What sort of school is this that this sort of thing happens? And that, well, anyway, the very next year I was down at Microsoft, and there is that student on a degree apprenticeship at Microsoft and that sort of thing. And you think, well, that's it. He was one of those highly intelligent kids who just, yeah, school doesn't necessarily suit, but UTCs do tend to suit them. And yeah, you have these occasional things. And yeah, it was quite a shock for my first introduction to schooling here. I thought, have I gone back to alternative provision that I used to teach in, with the really dodgy kids? But actually, no, it was there. And yeah, he's doing really well, and everything. So yeah, not particularly funny, or it wasn't at the time. You look back on it and you think, oh my goodness.
So before the pandemic turned our lives as we know them on our head, what would you say your favourite part of the school day is?
I'm an early morning person, so I tend to get in around the same time as Julie on reception at 7 o'clock, that sort of thing. And I love that first hour where there's not many people around. I can get tons of work done. And in fact, if you want me to do anything, that's the time when you want me reading your email and replying and stuff. Because by the afternoon, I'm dead on my feet. I don't want to do anything or anything like that. So that first hour is brilliant. I can work, do everything. Then after that first hour, about 8 o'clock, go and chat to a few people, and that sort of thing, ready for lessons to start at 8:30. So yeah, I'm definitely an early morning person if you want me to do any work and stuff.
So I'm sure it's quite the inconvenience then when we're all messaging you at 9, 10 o'clock at night because our sleep schedules are just completely gone due to the pandemic.
In a way, that's the beauty of modern technology, isn't it? That you can send these messages at different times and have these conversations, and actually, does it matter? No, And when you actually go out and start working, lots of teams these days are working across different time brands and that sort of thing. So, I mean, there is that question of, are these working times that we have artificial, and do we really need them? But there's a whole debate for you in that, isn't there?
Now, just to get to know sort of Rob as a human, what would you say are some of your general interests?
I do a lot of reading. I may come across as quite a sociable person and that sort of thing when I'm at work. The reality is I'm not. I'm not social at all. I like solitary things and everything else. So I do a lot of reading. My guilty sort of secret is I read a lot of non-fiction business books and management books and that sort of thing. I'm useless at management and business. I have no concept of value, so I'm useless out in the real world, but I love reading the techniques and tactics and everything else. If I had to pick fiction, I'm definitely a Terry Pratchett fan. I used to love getting his books when he was still alive on a regular basis and that sort of thing. But yeah, the other thing I'm doing, I'm actually training for the Bracknell Half Marathon, which would have been around now, actually, is now postponed till September. That was just a foolish New Year's Eve thing with my brother. You agree to these things. We were going to do a triathlon as well, but that's fortunately been cancelled. We'll have to do that next year. But I'm still down for the Bracknell Half Marathon. I wish I'd booked Reading or something, because Bracknell is so hilly that I'm going to be going up and down these hills. I think what possessed me to do it? But it forces me to get out and about and running. I've just got to lose 2 or 3 stone. It'll make it so much easier. If I can do a half marathon carrying this weight, I lose a bit, it'll be easy.
You might be joining me and Dan then. We've been discussing potentially going off to do the half marathon later this year.
Oh, excellent. I don't mind that. I'm not going to say anything about the last couple of races that I've had with my son, but We did do a 5K where he's moaning. He's in the corner there, listening in now. We did do a 5K where there were 2 books on offer. So the winner was bought 2 books by the loser and stuff. And I did seem to thrash him on that 5K. Apparently, he injured his leg. He injures his leg a lot when he's not doing well in races and stuff, you know. So we did another one in Windsor, I think, and I beat him on that as well. So he's not got a good record of beating me in these things. Not that I'm competitive or anything.
Well, I do hope that Dan's leg gets better at some point soon.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, that is all we've got time for today. Is there any bits and bobs that you're doing in the future that you want to bring to the attention of our faithful listeners?
Main thing is, you know, I think when you're at UTC, you don't see all of the great things that are going on. And sometimes I feel some of the students can be a bit negative about what's going on there. But, you know, as we discussed, there are so many amazing things. If you just focus on those amazing things, you know, UTC is brilliant and stuff. But yeah, that as soon as we get back into school, I'm going to open up the exam hall so we can do some more prof quals. So get in for doing some of those while you can.
Brilliant. And of course, don't forget to come on down to Cert Matters Online on May the 20th at 3 o'clock. And you can hear me and Rob speaking about why prof quals are so brilliant and how we've implemented them at UTC. So once again, thank you for coming. And it's been brilliant hearing from you, Rob.
Cheers, Becky.